Multiple sclerosis is often a difficult and debilitating disease. And although researchers are making tremendous headway in slowing the progression of MS once it's diagnosed, one of the continuing roadblocks in treating MS is how easily its symptoms can be overlooked by doctors and patients alike.
Probably started in high school, but really did not develop until till late 20s. And my symptoms appeared always individually, were somewhat mild, and always appeared to be something else.
There's some complaint, some symptom that they're having. And that symptom typically for MS might look like numbness, tingling. It might end up being in the hand or the face or an arm or some part of the body.
Other MS symptoms can include fatigue, vision problems, dizziness, and bladder dysfunction. And today, the number of people diagnosed with multiple sclerosis is on the rise. It is estimated that over 400,000 people in the United States have MS, and nearly 2.5 million worldwide. So, what causes MS? Essentially, immune cells that are meant to guard against germs take aim at the body's central nervous system instead.
But for some reason, the body's immune cells seems to think that there's some sort of a problem in the brain. And these cells then migrate out of the blood into the brain and spinal cord and cause inflammation.
As a result, these attacks damage the nerves that transmit messages between the brain and spinal cord.
And the inflammation can cause symptoms and ultimately to some tissue damage in the brain, leading to the neurologic complaints patients have with MS.
Along with a colleague, Dr. Clyde Markowitz, director of the MS Center at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, is reviewing the MRI brain scans of a multiple sclerosis patient. He explains that the light-colored spots are sclerotic lesions, or scars.
So looking at this brain, you can see the beginning of a lesion here. So this is a bright spot consistent with an inflammatory lesion in the brain. Here's some smaller ones, and as we go down, you can see that the numbers of them increase dramatically. These are all lesions consistent with multiple sclerosis.
Like so many patients with MS, Susan Mamrall was late in receiving her diagnosis, partly because earlier medical advice didn't pinpoint her symptoms as being connected to MS, and partly because she didn't realize that those symptoms were anything much out of the ordinary.
What happened with me is I think I had MS for probably a good 10 years and didn't get on the medicine. I think it might have slowed my progression down. When I did finally get diagnosed, I was already at secondary progressive stage, which means I had had it for at least 10 years and my injuries were already permanent.
As with any disease, creating a careful treatment plan to address the problem is the next step.
I want to make sure that they understand that there's a lot of options we have for treatment. This is not the MS from 20 years ago where, your doctor said, go home, get your things in order, there's nothing I can do for you. These days we have many therapies, and these therapies can actually affect the long-term consequences of having MS. They reduce the attacks, they prevent ongoing disability. So I really try and encourage patients to understand that there's a lot we can do for patients with a diagnosis of MS.
Also, experts say patients should try to live their lives as normally as possible.
So as long as I have a scooter to get around, electric scooter, get up and down the hills, I can get to church, I can get to the coffee shop, I can get to the bank, I can get around.
So the study of multiple sclerosis remains very promising. Some of it focuses on efforts to cure MS altogether, while other work continues to create more effective treatments for living with the disease day to day. The bottom line is, proper and prompt therapy can help many MS patients live their lives to the fullest.